This is Jay Wandoe with the Doe Spot. Thank y'all for listening. Thank y'all for checking me out. Once again, we have a great special guest today. I say today or whenever you're listening to it. Understand that as you see, I'm growing. Hopefully, I'm glowing, but I'm growing within this space. I'm trying to be more intentional with when I put out material, when I present to you whatever I'm presenting, because this is not easy. Having a family, having things going on in life. I really try to be as consistent as possible, but I definitely want to bring you guys the best material. And I can't think of a better person to bring out that best in me than artist or classmate, friend of mine, Chris Lewis. Chris, introduce yourself. I appreciate you coming on, bro.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. My name's Chris Lewis, Christopher, if you prefer. Yeah, I'm from Florence, South Carolina. Like
Motown.
Jawan said, yes, sir. Like Jawan said, he and I went to high school together. Um, yeah, no, and I think we were fairly parallel spirits.
Hmm.
Always had a very real sense of the world around us, even if we were focusing on different things. Our perspective, I think, was fairly similar. So, yeah,
Yeah, that's it. I believe in that too. And we reconnected talking about how God has brings us together, and that He's been with us. We're in our late 30s, pushing 40 soon, man. So we've been through a lot of things, man. I'm sure we have a lot to share and catch up on. Me, Chris, and I, along with class of 2004, so y'all can add that up. Recently had our 20-year class reunion,
hmm
and I got to see so many people who had well, it wasn't a lot of people, but it was enough people to kind of reflect on me, like, wow, like we really grew up. You
yeah,
know, I almost felt like we just walked out that stage for 20 years. A lot happened, a whole
yep,
lot happened.
yep,
Myself, being serving the country and going overseas, and now I'm back, coming back in Texas, and I'm reached out to Chris because I feel like he had a lot to say, and I wanted this platform to be one of those places where people could feel like they could speak freely. Not that you have to put all of your business out, but if you want to speak on something, speak on your behalf or someone else's, I felt like, you know what, let me create something where people can do that,
sure,
and I feel blessed for people to be want to share with me. So I just appreciate you coming on and
absolutely.
talk about just things you've witnessed, things good, bad, and different, things that you have witnessed, and things that because of those things, you're who you are. The people you've reached. I mentioned he's an artist. When you picked up the guitar, um, when you
Sure,
realized you had talents, you can spill, man. We can just talk and chat and give the people what I feel like they need.
sure, absolutely. Well, I mean, where should we start?
Let's start where we kind of grew up. We grew up in Florence, South Carolina,
Yep, yep.
southern city, southern state, obviously. For myself, growing up around the South Florence area, where it was mix of class. Like even though you may
hmm
have lived in a house, you may not have had it like that. I think people looked at where you lived as who you were, how you
hmm
dress, certain
Yep.
brands. People just looked at that and say, okay, this is where we're gonna place you as far as class. But then you get to the school, and this is a little bit of mix. So those who don't understand, like the South, so there's Southern people, then there's country people.
Yep.
I grew up in the southern part. I didn't grow up in the country. Like if I didn't live in the country, I'll say that. But many people from our school were country. The Meadow Prong, the Effingham, all that side. So where were you like located? Where you from?
So,
That
uh,
area?
the funny thing, and you didn't even know this, but I lived
Mm.
in Darlington.
Oh wow.
So,
Oh
yeah,
wow.
so,
I didn't know that at all.
yeah, so, uh, when I was younger, I think, let me see, 6 years old, we were living just right off a second loop. So,
Okay.
you know, kind of in the center of Florence, sort of
Hmm.
south side. And then whenever we were six, we moved out to Darlington, had a nice piece of property, beautiful house, and we kept the property in Florence.
Oh, okay.
So since we were, I mean, hey, I graduated now. I'm sure we could talk
Sure.
about,
Yeah, yeah.
I
The
think
zoning
just
and
the
all that stuff.
tax. Yeah, the
Uh,
taxes we
yeah.
still paid. So, we were a privy to going there. And I think, me having ADHD, my parents wanted to keep me close to my mom's work, which she worked right down the street at Carolina's Hospital.
Okay.
And, Darlington, I feel like would have probably been a lot more trouble, for me, just because it was a bit more volatile. Even though I know we had more people at South Florence, I think like, just there were a lot more kids that were, you know,
Sure. Yeah.
and,
Oh yeah.
and,
We've
and,
seen it.
and I did very good. I don't think I got in a single fight in school while I was in school. So that's a good thing. But,
Yeah.
um, so yeah, I didn't necessarily like fit in with the country club crowd or this crowd. And I don't think many people knew I lived out in Darlington
Yeah.
because I didn't have too many friends, but I got along with everybody. But
That's right.
yeah, so that's kind of how it worked.
And during that time, you're traveling, obviously, Darlington depends on where, I guess, where you were, 20, 30 minutes. So you having to
Hmm.
cross paths with, or cross past people or move past people to get to school. So when
Oh
you're
yeah,
in,
oh yeah.
and you had your brother Stephen, correct?
Yep,
Yeah,
yep.
remember Stephen, good guy. Yes, when being that brother, because I'm an older brother,
Oh, all right,
so
yep.
I'm a brother, oldest of four. It's four of us. So I know I felt like the leader of my household as far as give an example. But I always looked at you like an example setter. Like you were, I don't call you a class clown, but you got people's
No,
attention.
yeah,
I don't
yeah,
know if I use the word clown, but you got people's attention. You can keep people awake and everything else. So, you
yeah.
know, was that just something that, like you said, ADHD, but was that just something that you set out to
Um,
do, or?
so just kind of looking at the pathology of it.
Mhm.
So having the ADHD, I grew up where like essentially I was kind of always in trouble, and it was sort of like a we'll say like a catch 22. Like in order to get out of trouble, I would always try to charm my way out of it, and and the charm worked to a certain point until it was
Right.
like, oh, I'm about to throw up. This kid is so annoying. Um, but so humor was always my go-to. So
Hmm.
like I used to watch, you remember BET Comic View,
Oh, absolutely.
9 o'clock every night.
Yeah.
So I would just kind of get my rhythm and, granted, I wouldn't steal material. I would just, it helped,
I would say it
shape and
worked
mold my
because
perspective.
all the black girls love Chris.
Yeah.
So what you say, what you saying that I was like, oh yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, it
He was
totally
part of the
makes
culture.
sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, no. Well, and that's something I always said, and I thought it was maybe just me being a little cocky, but I was like, black girls love me
Yeah.
and old ladies love me.
I witnessed it. Oh, ladies. Okay. Yeah.
Yep. Yep. They do because the charm. Yes,
Hmm.
ma'am. Yes, sir. All that stuff. And that's how we were raised,
Yeah. For
I
sure.
mean, I still to this day, even if somebody's younger than me, I'll go, yes, ma'am. Yes, sir. I don't know about the sir because some kids don't
Yeah.
deserve it, but I
That's
think
true.
ladies deserve it a bit more.
Absolutely.
Anyway.
Yeah. And that's great that you pull me into that because as a person that's in the education system, I'm noticing where there's more kids like you. Then I guess more because I was more of the reserve, always thinking about what someone was saying or was thinking about me type in school. There's the
Yeah.
kids that want that attention. They gotta have that attention. And as we are the adults ourselves, we're on social media too, and we kind of want the attention too. We just don't do it as public, I say, in our
Yeah.
like real lives.
Yeah.
So as a person of, well, I call it person you influence at this point, where you're touring pretty much. You're on stage. How are you using that version of yourself to perform?
So, as far as attention seeking, I'm very averse to that. Like
Mm, mm,
man, like if all eyes are on me, like I need to be offering something of value.
okay.
Like I'm certainly not just trying to, you'll see people at the mall and they'll be walking, there'll be a couple guys and one would just go pop, 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 or something just to get everybody to look at it.
Sure.
It's like,
Yeah.
you are not doing yourself any service.
Service. Right.
So whenever I'm up on stage, one thing that I've always been very good at, I'm very observant. And so, say if I start playing and I haven't yet warmed up to like, kind of going back and forth, and I see one guy, across the room who is kind of singing along to, say, like Chris Stapleton song. I'll be like, all right, that guy likes Chris Stapleton. So I keep that in my head, and then I'll play another one. I'm like, hey, you like Chris Stapleton, don't you? And he goes, yeah, he's my favorite, stuff like that. And, so I learn about people while I'm up there. And it, very much like a teacher, you're up there teaching, but at the same time, you're learning because, you can't just, it's like putting a pill in the peanut butter. Like, you got to know what they want in order to give them what they need.
Yep.
And, when it all comes down to it, when I play a lot of breweries and smaller venues, I mean, I just got started not too long ago, about 3 years. And, we can kind of come back to where I'm at with that, in a bit, if you like.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
But, one thing that I say whenever I'm booking shows is, to the manager or the owner or whatever, I say, listen, I just want to add value, and one, not statistic, but one fact that I bring up as I go, I can't necessarily say I play for the biggest crowds, but every person that walks in, I try to keep them there. And that's, that's something that I do a pretty good job of. Like, not me being cocky, but, just kind of speaking objectively.
I know exactly how you feel, because this is what this is. I don't have a lot of followers or people that know what it is, but people ask to come on here. People say, hey, I like to talk. I like to speak on things because I think that is valuable in itself. It doesn't matter if it's 100 people or 2 people or 1,000.
Sure.
You're
Absolutely.
who you are. You're bringing whatever you bring to the table. And someone out there wants to listen to it and can't do what you can do. And that's where I say we connect, because you're doing something that, I can't do as far as, well, I'm sure I could if I would really try, but the fact that you are out there and putting it out there, it's amazing to me.
Well, I guess the out in the world manifestation of what I do is different than what you do, but we're doing the same thing, which is expressing what's inside of us. And, I can't remember who said it. It might have been, golly, it says something, a man can't truly be himself until he expresses the man inside.
Ooh.
And, or a man would never, it's something along those lines. A man would never know who he is until he expresses, the man inside himself, something along those lines. And basically, I guess I'm bringing myself up to today's kind of where I'm at with music. So I started doing music, and we can rewind back to how I got to Raleigh in a bit, but I moved to Raleigh 8 years ago and then moved back to Florence 1 year ago.
Right.
So 3 years ago, at the beginning of this month, I played my first show, at a brewery, Bearded Bee Brewing in Wandoe, North Carolina. Is like the #1 brewery in the Raleigh-Durham-Cary Triangle. You know how they do like best of the PD. This is best of the Triangle. And obviously, they've got, a much higher population and whatnot in that area. So I was super stoked, went there, and I was just like,
First time you just rocked it.
I just go, hey, who do I need to talk to about playing music here? And they were like, oh, the owner's right there. So I just walked and I was like, hey, I was wondering maybe if I could play some music. She's like, yeah, the guy canceled this Saturday. Can you come in, play 7 to 10? And I go, yep, guess I'm doing it. I was locked in. I can, I can sit in the back of the class and make jokes all day, but if you get me to stand in front of the class, I'm like, listen, I don't want the attention. I want to be part of the group, and I want us all to laugh together. Right. Well, standing up there, playing, or actually I sit in a chair because it's just more comfortable. And I have a foot tambourine that I play with my guitar.
Nice.
but I want to share. It's just sharing,
Yeah,
it's like, and one thing I'll say is, hey, y'all probably noticed by now, I play a lot of stuff that you've never heard, but it's just my way of letting you know what I think is good music. And I said, kind of ironic, because if we were in a car trip, you would, and there were three people in the car, you wouldn't hand me the aux cord, you know,
right. Yeah,
but
I get that.
yeah, but, I think, it's about how you do it, and people say, well, what kind of music do you play? I say, really anything, I say if it was written from the heart and can be sung from the heart, then I'll probably play it, so Sam Cooke, Otis Redding, Chris Stapleton, Gnarls Barkley, the Beatles, but I play it like me.
Sure.
Um,
Right. So you
and that's,
covering the song, but everything
yeah,
else
yep.
is all
I'm
it's all
not,
you.
yeah, I'm not a jukebox. I'm not going to play
Yeah.
Bon Jovi. Or Third Eye Blind or whatever. I mean,
Yeah.
so many people just are trying to get attention. You know, they're
It's
like, "Hey, here's my version of you know, whatever, living on a prayer." And I'm just like, that song sucks. I mean, it's a good song, but like, you know,
to play it. Yeah.
yeah, if you're just trying to sound like him, then what are you even doing here?
And that no offense to anybody that's ever recommended or say you should do something like this,
Truly,
but I get that I've gotten that so much in these 2 years that I've been doing this is
yep,
saying you should do this way. And I
yep,
commend people that have intros, people that have, they market a certain way. I tell my boy Sean, who's a owner and host of uh, not superheroes, just dad podcast. One of my, we've become good friends over the time, and
nice,
I tell him I admire it. That's just not me. It's not that I don't
yeah,
don't have time or anything like that, but I don't like. You think about like a TV show, like season one
hmm,
of Martin or Fresh Prince. You got
yep,
the same intro, and that's how people are recognizable. I'm
yep,
not one of those people. When you see
yeah,
me 1 month or 1 year, I look like this, and that's cool. I like keeping
yeah.
people guessing. I don't want to
Yeah, no,
sound like
you're an
him and
artist.
her.
You're an
Yeah,
artist.
absolutely. Same.
Artists don't necessarily create art. Artists express,
That's the definition.
and whenever somebody called me an artist, I don't know, we'll say about a year ago, and I was like, I guess I am. And I actually had to ask. I was like, well, I didn't play too many of my originals, and they were like, yeah, no, but you're doing your sound, and I'm like, I really am.
Yeah,
I'll listen to a
gotta
song
own that.
20 times. I'll listen to a
Mhm.
song 20 times, but then I play it completely differently, but it sounds right to me.
To you,
Yep.
love it. And I
Like
think
there's
that's
there's different ways to drive a BMW.
big time. Absolutely, no lies there. And I'll attribute much of us who we are to where we came from. And you're whether you know it or not, you're part of the um, Southern series. I'm talking with people who are from our area,
All right.
and I'll say for myself, what makes me, and I was a person who, so I went to, I run down my elementary school. So first grade, I went to the old Carver, before it
All right.
became like New Carver. I went to school in Florida my second grade year, Tim Rod my third grade year. I went back to Carver the year before it closed down, my fourth grade. Went to Moore Intermediate fifth grade, Greenwood sixth grade. Then I went to South Florence, Southside. So I've been
Now,
in
were y'all
all
just moving, or
life.
was it just,
Mom
was
moved, and
it,
then I lived with
yeah,
my dad for a year. I came back from dad. I moved again. Then mom got married, moved with, stepdad, and then we moved again.
gotcha.
So it wasn't something that was like, oh, let's just move.
Yeah,
It was just one of those
sure.
situations where this is where we
Life,
are. Yeah,
yeah,
this is where
life
you're zone.
took you. Yeah. Now,
Absolutely.
did you maintain some of your friends like in those earlier years?
I still run into certain people. Thanks for asking me because I like to be asked questions too. But
Sure, yeah.
yeah, but
I mean,
yeah, I do. Some people I do run into, or maybe friends of my mom's. So they're
yeah,
daughters, sons, or whatever that we grew up with. So yeah, so even you knowing me from high school, people knew me from second, or at least like fourth, fifth grade.
yeah.
That are still in the area, and I think that's cool. I think that's a good thing to have people to know you because when we do look at how social media has become and developed.
Yeah.
people only know us for, I don't want people to know Jay Wandoe, which is like my
Yeah.
stage name or whatever. If you know Juwan, then you know Juwan. I really
Yeah.
haven't changed that much, like you said. Like I have some of the same qualities. I definitely have the same heart, same values, thing in that nature. The attention part, like you were saying, is nothing I seek, but
Yeah.
I do have something to say and I do have something to express. And I
Yeah.
have, and most of that is the people I've known and grew up with. And
Yeah.
I realized like, wow, you guys are really doing amazing things. You could look at me and be like, wow, you lived an amazing life too. Let's talk about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's hook it up.
Absolutely.
So yes,
It's real cool.
yeah.
And that's one thing kind of going back to the social media thing. So we
Hmm.
grew up literally whenever it was dial up.
Yep.
And so it's funny how long it took for the internet to turn into Facebook and
Sure.
Instagram and all that.
We're living in it.
Yeah. And one thing that and obviously I think you're trying to filter out the disingenuousness of social media by, having real conversations.
Real.
And I
Yeah, that's exactly
applaud
what it is.
that.
I appreciate it.
But one reason why, if you by chance went to my Facebook, so that way maybe you could do like a quick little, like, what's Chris been up to? Maybe I could
Sure.
talk about this or that. You ain't going to find nothing. Cause one thing I hate, and you tell me whenever
That's
whenever
cool. Well,
we reach the hump,
yeah, I will.
but, I've had some pretty difficult things, and I'll call them self-imposed, but certain situations where it takes two to tango.
Hmm.
Unfortunately, in relationships, apparently I have two left feet. Um,
Yeah, I've seen some of those happen and
yeah.
then fizzle out.
Oh
I'm just
yeah.
like, oh,
Yeah.
okay, yeah.
And so I don't like to post stuff right now. I don't want to see somebody for the first time in 10 years and they go, oh, you just got a new puppy last week. And I'm
Yeah.
like, my life is so much more than a new
More than a
puppy
puppy.
last week. It's like, I've been through all sorts of stuff and, you know, just, I, the few, very few, and I've always been very particular about who I call my friend, my
Mm,
friend, like, oh, I got a million friends,
sure,
but
sure.
like, if you're one of the people that I open up to, I'll call you one of my best friends. I'll say, this is one of my best friends right here. He knows my ins and outs, but, you know, uh, kind of like whenever I bumped into you, it was like, yeah, we've never had a deep conversation ever,
Hmm.
but it's magnetic.
Yeah.
And we knew that we were so similar 20 years
Yeah, yeah,
ago,
plus, yeah,
20
absolutely.
plus years ago that, we could just pick up. We started talking about what God's been doing in our life recently.
Hmm.
And, obviously at a 20-year reunion, I didn't want to tell you, the highlights, the lowlights of the last,
Right,
like,
right.
10 years. But, you know, I think my life at this very moment, spiritual, physical, emotional, all that stuff has been shaped by my reaction to the crap that's happened. And, I'll share if you want. Cause
Still,
I mean,
man.
yeah,
You
you
got
feel free.
you got me all emotional over here. Like because it's like somebody gets us. We get each other, and that's all you
Yeah.
need.
Oh yeah.
All you
That's all
really
you
need is
need.
another person to understand. You don't need the
Yeah.
following for real. Like for real, you really don't need it.
Yeah.
Because once you click off, log off, those people are gonna go about their lives. But like you said, to have those friends, to have those people that you can connect with, regardless of how long y'all actually know each other. Well, I didn't have a class with that person, or you just met this person, whatever, long ago. How do you know them? And
Yeah.
yeah, that could be true in some cases. But when you
Yeah.
can come back and connect, because I legitly cannot talk to everybody from high
Oh
school.
yeah. No.
Like
No.
to sit there and
100%.
hold a conversation with them, what won't happen? Hey, I
Yeah.
gotta go. I really just we're just not the same.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean,
I can't do
that,
anything for you. You can't do anything for me, and that's
yeah.
all good. You know.
And, you know, man, we could dig into that big time. It's
Right.
just like, what exactly is where is the switch for people's lack of presence? it's like, eternity's real, right? And
Hmm.
you literally are just a screensaver of a human being. You might be moving, but you're not accomplishing. And that's not a
That's real.
judgmental thing.
No, that's
Listen,
real.
I mean, I've been, caught up in, see, for me, it's music.
Hmm.
You get, and, I mean, like God spoke existence into existence,
True.
right? Like the word is a powerful thing. And, you hear these songs today where, I mean, I don't even want to get into rap music really, but man, let me tell you, what goes into your ears goes into your soul. Your subconscious agrees with it, whether
Hmm.
you know it or not.
Yeah. Yep.
And what your subconscious agrees with, that's what perpetuates in front of you in your eyes. You manifest it. You listen to stuff about shooting and you know,
Drugs and
drugs and,
anything outside of
say,
what you actually do, probably.
yeah.
It's
And, and it's going to have an effect. You're going to start to
it's
make peace with the
influence.
fact that those are acceptable behaviors.
Yeah.
Well, just even trying to listen to country music on the radio for me is impossible.
Hmm.
It's like I say, you are what you eat. Well, you're so much more what you listen to and, what you take in. And so much of this stuff is just like eating marshmallows for your diet. They might
Right.
taste great. They might fill you up, but man,
But
they ain't
for
doing
how
nothing
long?
good
How
for
much
you.
of that can you take?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It starts to rot your teeth, rots your soul, so
Yeah. That's real.
I listen to real stuff. I try not to listen. I listen to a lot of worship music
Good.
because I mean, whenever I don't have the energy, what was it? There was a song that says,
Well, it's healthy. It's
oh,
actually, like you said, like you just said, it's actually doing
yeah,
something for you.
it's
It's
like,
providing value.
pulling fruit off the vine
Hmm.
and eating it fresh. But there's a song that I was listening to the other day that said, um, something along the lines of, I hope I get the strength. And it wasn't even a Christian song, but he said, I hope I get the strength to get down on my knees again. Talking about that struggle with God, that struggle with
Mm.
control in your life. And that's what a
Okay.
lot of my issues have come from is me
Okay.
trying to be the God of my life,
Right. Right.
and,
And you recognize that, and you're a person to be accountable, even though
yeah,
you probably hurt people or been hurt in the
yeah.
process.
Oh
You say,
yeah.
you know what, I gotta, a conviction hits you, and you're like,
Yeah,
I gotta stop this, whatever that is. I've been
absolutely.
through that. I hope anyone watching or listening to this know I'm not perfect at all.
Yeah.
You can ask that woman in there. You can ask those three kids. Juwan
You
is
can
not
ask
perfect at
me.
all. Yeah, exactly. Like
Jawan's
I've been,
not perfect. He and I are
sure.
very similar.
Yeah, like I've did through things. I've said things about people. I said things to people that were nice.
Yeah.
But within that, I know genuinely I want better. I ask for forgiveness. I can do that. I can always
Yeah.
go and say, I can ask for forgiveness and do better and correct my
Yeah.
behavior. That's
Yeah.
where that's the switch. Some people
Yeah.
aren't willing to create or correct their behavior. And they just
Yeah.
say, I'm just like this. This is who I am, what I listen to, who I'm around. These are my friends. They're doing
Yeah.
nothing for you. So those people I try to, even if it's relatives, I don't even like to use the word family sometimes. It's relatives. Sometimes I have to
Yeah.
like, pull away from to get
Yeah.
where I'm
No,
going.
I understand that. And, going to the Ramley relative slash family
Mm,
topic,
yeah.
just kind of, if you, I came to this realization, about a year and a half ago, um, that, you know, and certainly not, speaking ill of my dad,
Sure.
but he and I butted heads a lot. He and I weren't necessarily very compatible because we both wanted the torch, and,
With you.
and yeah, and one thing that I had to remember, or one thing that really, I was reading some book, during doing, 75 hard. Have you ever heard of that? It's a workout thing.
think I remember you going through because I deleted my Facebook since prior
Oh,
to
all
you.
right. Yeah.
But I remember before that, yet you were going at it.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
So, I read in there something along the lines of it was about marriage, but it broke relationships up into a very uh, easy to digest understanding that, essentially the only relationship that will ever make a difference in your eternity is the one you have with your Heavenly Father.
sure.
And so I go, well, if your, mom and dad, mom and dad are just coincidentally the people that brought you into the world,
Yeah,
and they were, financially and emotionally and physically responsible for you, but the spiritual, they can only hold your spiritual hand as they walk you to God.
come on now.
They
Yeah,
say, or Francis Chan said that our role as parents is to, as soon as possible and as well as possible, to take our children from being completely dependent on us to being completely and fully
give
dependent
them
on
up.
God.
Yeah,
And so, unfortunately, dogs, I got a little puppy. I
yeah.
can't, I might send him to God if he doesn't stop peeing on this carpet.
Right, right. Get it
But,
together.
so just even the concept of discipline changed. Um, is what I'm about to say to my child going to get him closer or farther away from God? And is it going to get him closer to trust me in my guidance of him towards God?
So you think your father, and I know my father didn't think that way. Me and him
Yeah.
aren't speaking like he would, and I
Yeah.
put it out there like he has chosen his path.
Sure.
We all made a choice. We
Yeah.
made decisions as parent, father, whatever. But
Yeah.
he's chosen to speak as of today. Choose to, however our relationship's going to be. Because I've presented myself as, hey, I forgive you. I know you
Yeah.
weren't there. You were a teenage parent. I get that. You
Yeah.
didn't know what to do. I get that. But now
Yeah.
our relationship should be shifting at this point. You have
Yeah.
grandkids. You should
Yeah.
want to have some sort of relationship with me. You can't just have a relationship with my kids
Yeah.
and not talk to me. That's not gonna work. That's not gonna
Yeah.
fly. That's like saying you're my friend, but you talk around me or
Yeah.
you don't talk to me about whatever that there is you need to talk about. I'm past that point of being that person for people to just
Sure.
pick up whenever you feel like I don't. I'd rather not. I'd rather do
Yeah.
this. I'd rather spend my time with people who actually want to engage and talk about
Yeah.
real things and even say, you know what, that wasn't right. That wasn't cool. And if you can't
Yeah.
accept that, then we just whatever, however many years, that's it's fine. Like
Yeah.
I'm good. I'm solid with that.
Yeah. I'm guessing your dad doesn't live there. Does he live in
No,
South
no.
Carolina?
Yeah, he's in South Carolina.
All right.
But he actually did live here. So it's just so funny that he did live in this exact San Antonio area
Oh,
before he was
wow.
actually
Yeah.
stationed here when he was in the Air Force. So, and I
Yeah.
spoke about that before, but just like this funny, it's like this is it should be your moment to come around and
Yeah.
rebuild something. But if that's not what you want to do, I'm not the one. Yeah, he's the one you have to answer to, and when
Yeah.
it comes to that relationship, because I
Yeah.
have my babies to raise. So
Yeah.
and
Absolutely.
it seems off topic, but it's the same concept when it comes to your values, your morals, because we're going to heaven alone. You
Yep.
know,
Yep.
my two of my three kids are saved. The only one
Yeah. That's
is the
wonderful.
1 year old.
Yeah.
And so just the fact that they decided, I didn't walk them up and say, hey, go give your life to Christ. They decided to do that on their
Yeah.
own.
That's wonderful. That's
I mean,
wonderful.
so
That's because you're putting them, you're guiding them.
yeah,
I mean, that's wonderful. That's
sure.
such a
I
blessing.
appreciate that.
That's such a
I'm
blessing.
sharing this on, publicly, but just
Yeah.
for people to understand that, regardless of when I found Christ or even when I've decided to live how I live and want to live, and I'm still working on me. I'm
Yeah.
never gonna be like I don't cuss or I don't do certain things. I'm working on me, and he's
Yeah.
working on me. But just when we do get to this point, this is really my point to make. When we get to the point where we're tired of being or feeling like we aren't whatever that is, we have to ask ourselves, what are you doing to control that? If you're lonely or bored
Yeah.
or things aren't going right, what haven't you done?
Yeah. Oh,
If you don't have a good
absolutely.
relationship with like you said, you having relationships, you knew, you know what, I
Yeah.
have 2 left feet. are and that's saying it's all you, but it's something with me that's going on that's
Sure.
causing some rejection. Or
Yeah.
when you talk about being equally yoked, you know, I've been with, and not just saying like sexually, but I've been with a lot of women, like have a lot of women
Yeah.
in my life. But
Yeah.
I knew this one right here was gonna be it. Like, and
Yeah.
we both say it, we both know it. It's not physical, it's not just spiritual. It's a lot, it's so much that goes into it. She's from
Yeah.
Florence. You know, we do know each other, and
Yeah.
it makes for a great everything else. So it's not just we get along, it's we
Yeah.
have great kids, talented kids, intelligent children. We have a great family dynamic. So even if
Yeah.
we don't get along with our families at that point in time, we can always revert or go back to the people that do care about us, the people that do
Yeah.
show up for us when we need them to. And so
Yeah.
friendships should operate the same way.
Oh, 100%. And, I think like kind of going back to saying, I've always been very particular about who I'm friends with. I think it's
Uh-huh.
because, I've always been isolated, even physically isolated whenever I was in school. I was
Okay, yeah.
25 miles away, 35 minutes from school. Um,
Shit, by the time you get to
and
school, you tired. You know what I'm saying? You're riding in the car.
well, I was always tired because I was skateboarding
Yeah, I remember that.
6, 8 hours a day, every day my entire teenage years.
Wow.
Um, but I think, and looking at it kind of from a psychological standpoint, I think the reason why I isolate is because I don't trust anybody.
Hmm?
And so if I ask you your opinion or your advice and you do something that I wouldn't say to myself, I'd go, that's the last time I'm ever going to ask, and, and
That's real.
that's just, yeah. And, I mean, so the reason why I'm able to take a very honest self-assessment, is my mom was a drug and alcohol rehab,
A counselor or
therapist,
a therapist? Okay.
counselor. Yeah. And
Mm,
she was the director of drug and alcohol rehab for, I want to say like 38 years, but I could
wow.
be short or long on that. But um, I mean, she literally ran AA and NA meetings every day for 30 something years. So there's obviously, she would always say, you can't, I'll censor it. You can't BS a BSer.
Yeah, I get
And
that
I'm
one.
like, listen, I can charm my way into so much trouble. And, but she led me, guided me into saying, hey, listen, you might be charming, but one day all that garbage that you're piling up is going to rot and it is going to be detrimental to your life. And she
Wow.
said, and she knew that I was very short sighted with my endeavors in
Sure.
all aspects of life. Um, but she did a really good job of just saying, hey, listen, if you can only see this far in front of your face, let's at least come up with a good plan to put something good right in front of you,
There
and
you
she
go.
said, don't be, don't be BSing.
Kudos to
Um,
mom.
yeah, no, man, she's still the
Mama,
same woman.
mama knows, like they say. Mama
Oh yeah,
knows.
she does. She does. I mean, bringing it to a beautiful point. Like, so the things that I've gone through that I put myself through, and I'll just breeze over them
Sure,
because
sure.
obviously I could go into as much detail as, time allows. But, um, so had a daughter, in May of 2017. Um, Me and her mother were going to live here in Florence. I bought a house 3 or 4 years before that. And I was working, doing all right, but she was kind of in the tech industry. She lived in Raleigh at the time and there was not really much opportunity for her. And I was like, well, you just stay home with her. And, um, the day after she was born, we were going to bring her home from the hospital. And, long story short, she ended up in the NICU. She had meningitis.
Mm.
So she was in the NICU for 2 weeks. And during that 2 weeks, let me tell you, I up to that point, I was however old, 31 years old. I'd never prayed as much as I had in that 2 week
I can
period.
imagine. I can't imagine.
Um, and, uh, part of kind of what we decided is that we were going to go up to Raleigh. Because I was doing real estate here. Their real estate market was tremendous up there.
Oh,
Number
yeah, I
one,
bet.
number one real estate market in the country at the time.
Wow.
And she was going to stay there. And, so we went up there and, you know, things didn't work out, certainly not going to go.
You go to yeah, we
Yeah.
get it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Just, I'd
yeah,
never want to say a bad word, about anybody.
sure. Same.
But, part of what happened was that I didn't react well to certain factors in the situation, if that makes sense. I'm
Hmm.
not trying to be too cryptic, but it basically led to, custody situation. And so it's been almost 5 years since I've seen my daughter.
Wow.
And she's, 7.5 now. And, my whole life, in first grade, teacher goes, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I said, I want to be a husband and a father. Two things. 6 years old, 5 years old, whatever
Right. Yeah.
I was. And that's a weird answer to that question. And this all ties into God. So he gave me a child. And then 2.5 years ago, I got married. And we were married for a year and a half. And, it just
It did what he
imploded,
wanted it to do.
exploded. Yep.
Yeah.
It did exactly what me being in control of a
Mm.
situation leads things to do. So I moved back to South Carolina almost exactly a year ago. We'll call it exactly a year ago because I was back here at this time last year, but I didn't move into my house until the middle of October. But, so I was a dad. I was a husband. Those were two things that God gave me. Um, Going back to the impatience thing, um, I wanted everything to be exactly how it was supposed to be as soon as I wanted it. And,
Been there, sir. I get it.
yeah. And the way that God responded is he basically said, here you go. Here's your, and, and just so that way people, viewers out there aren't like, ooh, tremendous father.
I believe it.
Something I definitely, I would say had a real natural ability to do. It seems as though you're the same way. You're a
Yep.
natural teacher. I am as well.
Yeah.
And I was actually a lot sweeter than I thought I'd be. I thought I was like, oh,
Yeah.
I'm scared to have a child because I know I'm going to be, hey, stop. Yeah,
Yeah. And I have those
man,
moments, but
oh,
they know the difference.
yeah, well, it's one of those, things you really have to ask God to hold your hand.
Yeah.
Um, um, and then, uh, I was a good husband, but man, we had some stuff we needed to work out before we got married.
Mm.
And some things came out that I didn't know about, and it just led to a dissolution. Heartbroken. I mean, heartbroken. Came back, to South Carolina, and, me being in control, I was like, well, I caused the problem. Let me go also procure the remedy. So I started going out and drinking, doing this and that.
Mm.
And Apple Annie's, I'm sure you've been to
Oh,
Apple
yeah.
Annie's
Yeah.
before.
Yeah.
It's a wonderful establishment. But if you go there looking for salvation,
That ain't
you ain't going to find it.
that ain't
But, I went there and I said, this is, the thousandth time I've come here and gotten a tallboy PBR and tried to find the answer to my problems. And, I, just bumped into a friend who had another girlfriend with her.
Mm-hmm.
And so I started talking, and she was talking about she was going through a divorce, this and that, and just suddenly the Holy Spirit came through to me, and I showed her the background on my phone. It was Jesus carrying a sheep on his shoulders, and I took her through this little parable. I was like, we've all heard the parable of the shepherd will leave the 99 to go get the one sheep, that keeps leaving the flock. And I said, but what I heard at my church up in Raleigh, that just blew my mind. And I saw it happening to me.
Instantaneously, like in that moment, y'all
Yeah.
were having,
But get
yeah.
this, it goes, so, the shepherd will leave the flock to go get the one sheep. But if that same one sheep keeps going over and over and over again, what he'll do is he'll break the sheep's front legs. Have you ever heard this?
Not in detail, but actually
I'm,
that came up in service 2 weeks ago at school, and
see?
I got there a little bit late, but they were talking about
Yep.
demons and sheep, and yeah,
Yeah.
so
So he'll break the front legs, and he broke my legs. Everything I had, my career was up there. I mean, I probably played 20 shows in the past year. I used to play 20 shows in 2 months. My friends, my small group, I was in church, but I wasn't in God.
understood, yeah.
I was holding on to him instead of letting him just hold on to me.
Mm,
But here, let me finish with the sheep thing. So I lost everything. He broke my legs. And what the shepherd will do is he will carry the sheep in the green pastures and let them eat. He'll lay them down and let them eat. He'll lay them down by the still waters and let them drink. He'll bathe them. He'll protect them if the wolves are trying to get them, because see, instead of being off a quarter mile that way, like, there goes Chris again. No, he's got you. He's going to
right,
protect you. And by the time you heal, by the time that sheep's front legs heal, you ain't going to be walking away from the shepherd, because you finally realize that he is good. And so I went through all of that. And, you know, uh, hey, I'll just be completely honest. God might still have to break my legs again.
oh man,
No,
I'm almost this. I'm
oh
feel like
yeah,
mine are broken right now.
yeah. Well, but the thing about it is that he'll never break your legs to hurt you.
Right, right, absolutely,
He'll
yeah.
break your legs to keep you from walking away from him.
Hmm. Hmm.
Or you can crawl away from him if you're that
Yeah,
desperate to defy.
whatever's out there.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
this book I read said, God opposes the proud, and God has never lost a battle. So if you're proud, if you're trying to be God of your life, you're in opposition to the omnipotent,
Hmm.
omniscient God that has never lost a battle. Do you seriously think you're going to win?
Yeah, some people do. Yes, they feel
Yeah,
like, you know what, I got a chance.
absolutely. And, you're looking at one of them that up until a year ago, I thought I could win that battle. I figured I've always been a problem solver. Give me the Rubik's Cube of salvation. I'll figure it out. There is no way for you to figure it out, because these mortal hands, you know, cannot,
Oh,
can't
not
even
even.
turn,
Right.
you
Not even
know,
close.
not even
Yeah.
close. That's like trying to solve a Rubik's Cube. It's got 1, 2, 6 sides, but there's 7 colors. It's like, it ain't gonna happen.
Real.
Something's gonna be off, and yeah. And so, kind of wrapping all that
Bringing
up,
it all back. Yep.
yeah, bringing it all back is the for men like me who had a problem submitting to their, oh, look at that.
Oh, look at that. Right there.
Uh,
Look, come on, God.
Come on,
We,
we're
hey,
free likes. Um, for a guy like me who had a problem submitting to anybody, including his earthly father. it took 37 years, 38 years for me to say, no matter how I could be the smartest man alive, I could be the best problem solver, the most well intentioned, you know, no man gets to the Father but through me. Like, no man.
Yeah,
Like,
it
it's
hasn't been
not
done. It's
happening.
not going to be
Yeah,
done.
it's not going to be done, Chris. It's not going to be done, Jawan.
Yeah,
And so the strongest, what did I say? I went to an AA meeting. I was not an alcoholic, but the day after my wife and I had our blowout fight, my mom said, you need to go to an AA meeting because obviously that's what she knew. And this guy said, in my 63 years of life, my best efforts in trying to solve the problems of my life, my best efforts brought me here,
come here. Wow.
got me here to where I can admit that I'm not in control. And, the most control a man can ever have of his life is to let go of it and let God give him the desires of his heart.
Mm. You brought so much light to me just now, man. I mean, I don't know if we do the light is flashing, man.
Yeah.
I don't even know. This is a Bible study. This is confessional. This is testimony. All wrapped into one.
Oh,
And,
absolutely. That's
and
what
man,
life is.
I'm so, Chris, I'm telling you, I'm so appreciative to even
Absolutely.
have this conversation. And I know he like listening to this point, it kind of like had to build up. We haven't really spoken to each other in
Yeah.
years. And we
Oh,
spoke
yeah.
at the reunion in April, end of April. Before that, we haven't had a conversation. Maybe I seen you at Best Buy. I was telling my wife, so yeah, Chris worked at
Oh,
Best Buy,
yeah.
and I was
That's
like,
right.
I see him
Wow.
in passing, and but even things like that, I just remember certain people
Yeah.
or certain things about people that
Yeah.
most people probably wouldn't even think about. Lived all over the world. I lived in
Yep.
Japan. I lived in England. I've been to war. Just all these things.
Yeah.
But it's like, God's going to end up connecting you back with someone for some reason.
Oh, yeah.
He's kept us alive. He's kept us,
Yeah.
uh, you know, people call it winning, but I just feel like just being in his presence long enough for us to
Oh,
have these
yeah.
type of conversation, this dialogue, and for other people to hear it, and someone, viewer, listener, whatever
Yeah.
out there needs it. And you one of those people I feel I absolutely need in my life, and I thank you. I
Oh, man.
appreciate you,
Oh,
and
absolutely.
I cherish our relationship. I pray that from here, we go and we check on each other more often, and we
Sure.
just
Absolutely.
check in. And it's just amazing conversation. I know you had a lot more. I had a lot more to share, but
Oh, man. I got
we'll circle back on it. Yeah,
38 years of
for sure. But
topics.
we don't get this too often. We don't get
Yeah.
a chance to really express and
Well,
have someone listening to us. And that's really all this is about, man. So I just thank you again for coming on to the Doe Spot. We got Chris Lewis, who has been very transparent. Not surprised. You
yeah.
guys might be like, wow, I share so much. I'm not. I already
Yeah.
knew,
Oh, yeah.
things I've shared. We're giving it up. God's got a hold on us. He is our shepherd. So
Yeah.
whatever, however you take this as, I know, we talk about God in a lot of cases. People start to like, I don't talk about Jesus, and
Yeah.
that's not my thing.
Yeah.
And
Well, they need to know that God talks about them all the time.
come on now, exactly. So
Hmm.
if that's you can turn it off, it's cool. But I know who I'm talking to. I just say that I
Yeah.
know who my audience is. That's probably the best realization I've had over this time. Like I know who's with me. I know who's for me.
Yep.
I know whose I am,
Hmm.
and that's really all that
Yeah.
matters at this point.
Yeah.
So yeah, awesome
Yeah.
conversation, man. Awesome
Well, whenever you
discussion.
got a microphone in front of you, you got to talk about the most important stuff first.
Absolutely.
You
Thank
know?
you. That's what I feel.
Yeah.
I mean,
Absolutely.
you're right here with me, man. And before we go, you got anything you want to share? Any
I
stuff?
went to college for golf course management. Never thought I'd work on a golf course
Hmm.
again. And, having the lack of musical venues here in Florence and,
Yeah.
just kind of being at we'll say diminished capacity as far as the effort to get the, Charleston, Myrtle Beach, Columbia,
Yeah.
stuff like that. It's
We'll
just,
talk about that too. I got some connections. You'll be
sure.
I'm sure you'll
Perfect.
want to hear about. So we'll talk about that off camera. So
Perfect. But
yeah,
yeah, no, I've got a lot of buddies there that, are kind of in the real estate bubble. So I'm like, hey, maybe I'll get back into it. But one thing I was gonna say, I was reading this book and I was like, oh man, what a quote. So I'm gonna just share. It's just a good
absolutely.
quote.
Bring it.
It goes, a moment of clarity without any action is just a thought that passes in the wind. But a moment of clarity followed by an action is a pivotal moment in your life. And I was, just kind of call it the Holy Spirit, call it what you will.
Sure.
Um, Whenever you have a moment where you're like, man, I really should do blank. The other day, somebody asked me, like, you going to the gym today? Because we were getting off work. I was like, nah, but I need to. And then I was like, wait, if I need to and I'm not doing it, am I choosing to do what I don't need? Just kind of
Yeah,
like
yeah.
going back to crappy music. There's no point in it. You're actively dropping yourself down a notch. Like I say, if you know you need to do something, do it.
Or don't do it, or let go of
Yep.
it. Do it right
Yep.
then. Don't wait.
Yep. Do it right then. If it's, yeah, if it's letting go, if it's grabbing hold, if it's calling somebody up, there's big power in forgiveness, and most of the effect of forgiveness isn't just, I think we could do a whole podcast on forgiveness, but,
Oh man.
um,
And trust too.
forgiveness is for
You brought
the,
up trust
yeah.
earlier. We literally just talked about that on
Oh
service,
yeah.
and we're gonna run it back. I'm all for
Oh yeah.
part twos and threes and all that stuff. So yeah, we can definitely
Absolutely.
run it back. Where we just chat on our own. But either way,
Everybody at Christmas time always says better to give than receive, and forgiveness is one of those things where that's actually true.
yeah,
Because you don't realize how much, and I'm the product of unforgiveness.
yeah.
I've been not forgiven from people in my life that I think they were afraid to forgive me because they didn't want to.
I give you an edge on them or
Yeah,
whatever.
and that's
Yeah,
okay. That's
yeah,
okay, but forgiveness is not just wiping the slate clean, but it's, you know, what it does is I can't remember what it's called whenever the Japanese art where if you break a pot and then you rebuild it with the gold,
mm. My
um,
daughter probably knows.
yeah,
They're born in
but
Japanese, so they
yeah,
probably know.
it
In
says
Japan.
not only does it make the pot, exponentially more beautiful, but it makes it stronger.
Wow.
And, from a kind of philosophical standpoint, forgiving somebody is rebuilding their character. And whenever you're able to screw up and be forgiven, you move forward in life with a lot more weight to your decisions.
Yeah, you good. I was like, oh, this never happened before.
I had, yeah, no, I had on Do Not Disturb, but it must have been one of those, two calls back to
It
back.
got through. Yeah,
But that's perfect timing. But no, whenever you move forward in life thinking that you can't be forgiven, then sometimes you're like the Joker who just wants to watch the world burn.
right.
And, since not everybody that's listening is a Christian, I will say that, true spiritual forgiveness is only attained, you know, yep.
Yeah, you can
It's,
do that.
and I forgive because I've been forgiven. I've never had a problem forgiving anybody because I knew at a young age, before I knew Jesus, that I was a handful.
Sure. Same.
And, everybody screws up.
Right.
But anyway, that's my
Yeah.
spiel.
No, that's perfect, man. That's right on
Yeah.
time. There's a lot to digest, but I absolutely just uh, love that you have come on here and given, laid this foundation down. I think again, this is like a foundation. Again, you someone like I told you, I haven't had anyone on that I've known so long as far as
Yeah.
from those years. So to be able to reflect and just think back, like, wow, I do remember the skateboarding. I do remember,
Oh, yeah.
seeing the activity. And for myself, I've always been an observer. So,
Yeah.
I've watched people's lives go here, go there, and I don't question it. I don't
Yeah.
judge. It's just more so like I always say I hope they're okay.
Yep.
even if that
Yep.
person did something to me, like you said, I've learned to forgive to a point where I'm
Sure.
not even, I know someone said something about me when I was whatever age or whatever.
Yeah.
I hope you're okay. I hope you, whatever's going through in your head at that point, it's your head, not your heart. I would hope that is the case. And if it isn't, if that's just who you are, that's just who you are. I'm gonna
Sure.
keep being who I am.
Sure.
So
Well, it's a blessing to you know have an old friend.
yeah,
You know,
oh friend, I appreciate you.
yeah. I heard this. I heard the song the other day. He said, "You can make new ones, but you can't make old friends."
That's right.
And
I hear that. You
that
can't make old
oh
friends, guys.
no, you can't make old friends. So,
Beautiful.
yep. And that right there, that is the tagline for the reason why forgiveness is so important. Because
Mm.
if you can't forgive an old friend, guess what they become? I used to be my friend. You know.
So I got some phone calls to make in a couple of days, but like you said,
Hey,
I got some.
we all do.
Sometimes you just got to make them, or just. 'Cause I don't. I told people I rather tell you I forgive you than to be watching you where you
Yep.
are and say, you know what,
Yep.
dang, I could have said something.
Sure.
I, I don't want to. I don't want to deal with that.
Yep.
And
Yep.
we're at that age. We're in that stage of life where those things are happening. We're
Oh,
literally
100%. Well,
people are
you
grown.
said the word at the beginning of it, intentionality. That's it
Yeah,
right there.
yeah.
The beautiful thing about our free will as men and women
Hmm.
is that we can be intentional about the things and people that we want in our lives, and we can ask God to bless them. But we can push people away. That's our choice. We can bring people in. That's our choice. What God
Yeah,
chooses to do. You can plant seeds. Doesn't mean you're going to have corn,
yeah.
but, you know, uh, uh, the behaviors and friendships and everything grows that is watered. And the things that you focus on are the things that you tend to yield fruit. So anyway,
Love it.
I could go on all
I'm
day.
about to say, I hope y'all writing this stuff down because my man's got some gems. But yeah, let's
Oh,
exit out of here. It's the Doe Spot, Jay Wandoe, Chris Lewis. Thanks for coming on, and we're
bye
gonna
y'all.
catch y'all on the next one. Peace and love.
Absolutely.
Blessings.
Be good.